So let's talk about PDF patterns in sewing. I love them, but I fully understand why others don't. Sure, they're a pain to put together. I mean, I sped up this footage by 1,000 times another 1,000. I think it was an hour and a half of cutting edges, and another hour plus of taping and cutting to my size, both of which were not without distractions. So I tell myself it's meditative and relaxing, a good excuse to focus on an award ceremony for graduating seniors. Yes, I did cut and tape all of this out in May, and then sew it in July. For me, PDF patterns are most useful because I tend to move around a lot, and I also like to pattern hack. When I move, I inevitably trash pieces by accident that didn't make it back to their folders, and then I can just print out a replacement. And when I pattern hack, I inevitably forgot to make a copy of the original before messing with it. It's been nearly 9 years since I started sewing from PDFs, and I've basically just learned how ridiculous I can be. So for me, it's worth a 2-hour period of soothing, cutting, and taping. For me. Let me know in the comments what you prefer. So this fabric that I'm working with, the tie-dye looking one, is a rayon linen that I ice-dyed, and the green one is a green cotton twill that I got from my local fabric store. By the way, this pattern is the Robin dress from Script Patterns. It's my first pattern from the company, even though I followed the Dreamstress for years on her blog. It just happens that this is the first pattern of theirs that lines up nicely with a need and an interest at the time. And I have to say, it is an excellent pattern in both drafting and instructions. I also have to say that while I did read the instructions, I may not have actually followed them. The first change that I made was pocket placement. I'm short, and I regularly have to raise the pockets, so this was pretty normal for me, and I thought that it was going to be smooth sailing from that point on. Of course, the fabric choices that I made and my perfectly normal, but also weird measurements, required some heavy alterations to the back of the garment, but the straight from the package medium bust fit very well for me in front. The back was not what I pictured, and I think that it's mostly because I wanted the back to fit fairly tight against my body, and I did that because I knew that the rayon was going to relax with time, but as I was sewing it, it just kept relaxing and relaxing and relaxing. So then, when I got the back fitted, it turned out that these side seams were pretty well fitted for most of the body, but were loose at the top. One thing that I have learned is to be careful with the arm's eye of dresses made of woven fabrics, since I tend to attempt to ballroom dance in everything that I own, and I will not wear a dress in general that I can't raise my arms and move around in, whether or not I'm going dancing. So the closer that the arm's eye fits to the body, the less it'll pull in the body section when the arms are raised, so I like it to fit very closely around my arm socket. After that, I decided to put off hemming as long as physically possible, so I decided to bias bind to the neck, and then I added buttons and buttonholes. So at this point, I had already decided that it was probably a stay-at-home dress, because this was July, and at the time, and even now, we're still mostly in a stay-at-home environment. And so I decided to not go with the lavender or purple buttons, because I know that those are going to find a good project some other time. So dark gray buttons it was. And of course, my normal cutting open the buttonholes with seam rippers and so much free jack. And then I sewed the buttons on. After another try-on, I again made the decision to not hem the dress yet. Sure, I pinned it up a little bit before setting in the sleeves, but I did pivot. Turns out, though, I can raise my arms comfortably in this dress. So, continuing to put it off, I decided to bias bind the sleeves, and then finally the hem. I do remember that the instructions for doing the bias binding at the hem center front were very good, and because I was tired and therefore confused, it was super helpful, and it worked out perfectly. So that's my robin dress, and I love it. It feels like I am the best dressed work-at-home princess, and I can't wait to get my hands on the right fabric to make another one. Alright, see you next week.